It is, be it a job, an opportunity, a goal, something that defines you and the quality of your life. When it is withdrawn from your life suddenly, then that means that you lose your balance. And out of that imbalance is where those difficult emotions begin to cripple in. And it is always accompanied, because when that happens, when anything that has defined your identity and the quality of your life, so if it's identity, that's human. If it's the quality of your life, that's substance or material or anything, a car or a job, yeah? So when it is suddenly withdrawn, then that means there's an imbalance. And the reason why we call it a loss is because the gap, because when the quality of your life and your identity were okay, you are almost at a good horizontal, and then suddenly there's a slippage and one goes down, and this going down, that gap here that is created is what becomes a loss. And so the journey of back filling up that gap that has been created, we don't want to say that these talks make it easier, but sometimes they provide a map, and that's the best thing. Sometimes when you're in the woods, we are not saying that the map is going to do the walking for you, but when you're ready to start doing the walking, you have a way, you have something to guide you to turn left, turn right, so that you don't run out of energy and run out of the resources that you have. Yeah, so I think it starts there.
And if let's kind of categorize it as well. Start with the loss of a job. Somebody probably watching or knows somebody who has lost their job, and like you said, it defines you for some moment, because normally, and that's the thing, maybe one day we'll also talk about identities. Whenever people ask you, when you introduce yourself, my name is Willis and I'm a journalist. So sort of my identity, like it's like if you remove journalist, yeah, so if you remove journalist, then Willis ceases to exist. And so for somebody who, I am a banker, I am a whatever it is that they are, have lost their job, how do they deal with it? How do they, because and also maybe if you can, maybe there is also the need, because you have to grieve, because you don't want to cover it up as well. So how do you deal with it?
Yeah, I think also we have to first of all agree that loss is always accompanied by three things. One is powerlessness. People feel powerless. Others feel emptiness. And the third one is collapse. You feel like either the walls have collapsed in or on you, and so you either collapse from outside in or explode, but whichever way, there's a sense of collapse. And that means that if you're feeling the emptiness that accompanies, as you're saying, if I withdraw the word journalist, you feel like, okay, you remain a journalist, but not at Citizen. So you can be a journalist at any house. So you wonder, so now where do I take all these? I'm used to being up at 3 a.m. in the morning. Now it's 3 a.m. and you're up and you cannot go to work, and your wife is asking you, so what are you thinking? And you're saying the routine of how my life was when I was still maybe practicing at a particular place is still there. If I'm a banker, maybe I'm supposed to report by 8. By 5 o'clock, I find myself up and I'm wondering, so what do people who stay at home do? So that routine and that rhythm is still embedded deeply in your mind. And when that collapse has occurred, so many of us, we find ourselves within that period of not having a defined schedule. That's when our quality of life has been disrupted. That's when some of us make the biggest mistakes. I would tell somebody who has lost something that has affected the quality of your life, you have lost a job, that don't be in a hurry to make decisions. Don't rush it. Allow yourself the time to go through the motions and to be sober. The biggest killer of people's resources and the biggest killer of people's dream is when they're trying to overcome that feeling of loss. They feel bored, and the feeling of boredom has a way of trying to make you come up with activities that cost you money that you're no longer making, cost you time that you could actually spend doing something else, but because you're feeling bored, you're feeling manzesa sandadu. So occasionally so I'm at home. Let me come up with something to do. That's where most addictions come in. That's where most seductions come in, because people know you have some liquidity, because you're not sent away just like that unless you did something dangerous, like hang on these cameras. And,
and so you have to pay.
So you have to
part with or be punished.
You have to part with something
Yes.
to pay for it. But now if you have not done that, don't be in a rush. And this is what people must know, that don't rush your soul. Don't rush your soul into thinking of something to do. I see people, especially who have been in structured employment, when they're transitioning from structured employment into self-employment, they lose most of their money there because everybody's bringing something. Willis ameniletea GNLD, you ameniletea TNT, you ameniletea blockchain, you ameniletea, and I'm trying to do all these things that I don't even understand. And then by the time I discover, I was just simply a journalist. I'm not good at blockchain, and sasa nakupata kwa seminar and nini, because you're trying to fill in so much time because you're afraid of being bored. And what you have to know when you have lost something is that you need help. Don't shy away from asking for help. If you have been used to structured employment and now you find yourself with more time, ask for help for somebody who is self-employed. Walk up to him and tell him, so guys, so how do you people run it? How do I organize it? I know it's not African to ask for help because watu watasema manze, umsata jamaliza wiki ashaanza kutusumbua, but
Yeah,
you need to be humble enough because it takes courage to ask for help. You need to be humble and courageous enough, and it takes humility to be courageous. Those are oxymorons of some sort, but it takes humility to be courageous, and it takes courage to ask for help. So go ask for help. Ask for somebody and say, hey, you know what I can do? This is what I have. How can you help me see through this? This is the money I have. This is this. And give yourself that time. Don't rush it. And that's what I'll tell somebody. Don't rush it. If you're coming, if you've just lost your job, don't be in a rush to jump into a new thing. You're still in a grieving state. But
that's what I was going to ask. How long should this grieving state?
Well, the grief,
how do you know I've been doing it for too long? It's now a pity party.
The grief lasts as long as you choose for it to last.
Okay.
And I know sometimes it feels as if when we say that, it's as if we are not compassionate. But you will be surprised that when you begin the same way you are attached to your job, if you develop an attachment to your goals, soon and very soon you'll discover, because you need to redirect the attachment. Because that is what, we are using the word loss to say that it's a sense of loss. It is physical and it is also psychological. The psychological part of you is what holds on to the physical occupational functions that you had. So these other psychological aspects of it, because you cannot re-employ yourself back at your office and say, by the way, nime change, sasa, I was driving home, I had my Damascus experience, take me back in. Maybe the office made a decision that they cannot take care of you as you are supposed to be taken care of. So when you start making your move, now you need to redirect your energy from where, because when you're still pouring your energy to where you have been either fired or lost your job or lost your wife or girlfriend or anything, when you're still pouring your energy there, you're going to get the same feelings, which are the feelings of that accompany loss. Powerlessness, emptiness, and collapse. So you need to make the choice to, now I need to start investing my energy and attaching myself to a new social place, trying to put myself in a place where I can acquire a new skill. It doesn't mean the pain won't go. And this is what we sometimes call, I call it psychological maturity, is when you can have peace without the pain, where you've gone through a very difficult thing and you've lost something, or people have mistreated you, and you get to a place where you're at peace now. You're at peace with them. You can see them and live on. So I would just put ourselves in that place. Start redirecting your energy to a new goal, to a new vision, to a new sense of purpose. And that's why we always urge people, those of us who are in personal life development, we always urge people that you must have a purpose that is higher than your pay and your passion. Because when you run out of passion and you feel demotivated, your purpose will always call you back to your focus and to your direction. So we always urge people to have that.
To kind of it will kind of reset.
Yes, reset you back. Once you've gone through the grieving, the tiredness, and then it hits you, hey, by the way, I still have more years to live. The purpose will always set you back. But if you don't have it, you're going to have a really hard time.
There's something else that is a little bit also almost taboo for an African culture, is preparing for loss. I mean, of course, especially taboo when you're preparing for the loss of somebody, like, okay, sasa vile mzazi anaenda, sijui kama atalast, so let's start preparing. Or even as an individual, as a father, preparing for, in case I'm not here, what will happen to these people. And for work, you're probably putting in some money and saving it in case one day it's not there. So how important is it to prepare for loss without, again, having a negative mindset? That those who say, we are just bad passers.
This world is not our home.
Yes. And so you're constantly in that state, and then you don't do anything. You stagnate.
Unfortunately, I think many of us feel like loss. We treat loss as an omen. So I always say this, that they say those. I think I put it like this: that those who, if you think about death independently, then you will live your life deliberately. But unfortunately, for many of us, we think about death, which I use death for loss. We think about loss and death not independently, but when we are going through it. So when it hits you, that's when it hits you, hey, I had not made this. And so you see that people who make quality decisions in their life, I'll quote a verse in scripture that says, it says that this, oh Lord, teach us to number our days, that we may apply our hearts to wisdom. That means if you are aware that you are mortal, if you are aware that your days are numbered, then there is how you will redirect your decisions, and there is how you will redirect your time, and there is how you will prioritize your events. So in an African setting, because you always treat loss like an omen. Oh, that's what an owl or an owl, oh my God, something is going to happen. Let's call Jolemo, let's call because we need to exercise loss. But there is nothing that enables people, those who think about loss independently, that is deliberate. You put yourself in a place and ask yourself, should I lose my leg? What will I do? I think about it independently. Then it hits me. I'm a footballer, and that's why I'm a footballer. But should I get injured? What will happen to me? So
you ensure
that, hey,
like Cristiano Ronaldo,
like Ronaldo's,
104 million
dollars. Because he's aware. This is what I have to do. You start making those decisions, asking yourself. If you're in media, you ask yourself that question. If you're still living at your parents' house, you need to ask yourself. You're not wishing them evil, but you're just asking yourself, should this happen independently so that I can be able to now start living my life deliberately and stop taking the things that I still have for granted? But if I say, well, I don't want to think about that, I was told to not think about that, when it happens, you get into that collapse because you don't know how to live without your fixer. It's always your mom who fixed you. It's always your dad who fixed you. It's always your boss who fixed you. It's always your girlfriend who fixed you. And so when she's not there, you collapse and you remain in a state of collapse. We need to start thinking about it deliberately. And so I would urge us, especially those of us who are still in this hunting age, hunting phase, that it is important for you. It is important for you to always call yourself to a meeting and strip yourself of everything that you have. Your wife, your children, your parents, your money, and ask yourself, if I'm left with nothing, what do I have? When you feel the sense of loss, it should develop in you the sense of resilience. So if you feel like, should I lose this, I will not be resilient, and that tells you that area, you need to start putting in some investment, building resilience in that area. Not just financial, but building emotional, programming yourself in that way. Phones nowadays come up with a backup system. They say, hey, you may go through and your phone may crash or be lost, but we have created a system, either a cloud, whereby you don't lose everything. Why? They want it to be, you can be able to move on with your life. You can buy a new phone and retrieve everything and bring it back into the new life. So it's important for you to pull yourself into a corner and strip yourself and ask yourself, by the way, if I wake up one morning and where I work or where I lead or the church that I pastor, they say, I don't think we no longer need you. You've done well, but you are no longer the hot cake. We found some new blood, that is pumping and is able to get us. When I feel that sense of loss, if I don't think about that intentionally, I'll be forced to think about that the day they serve me the letter and tell me, by the way, are you aware we've thought about this? And what will happen? That sudden hit will bring me into emptiness. I'll start thinking, oh, they hate my nose. Maybe it's the color of my skin. Maybe they love fat people, not thin people. And I'll look at everything else. But the big question is this. If I never thought about it deliberately, I will never put resilience in my soul to be ready for that. I call it the evil day, which comes on anybody. The evil day will just come, and when it finds no resilience, it will bring me and wash me over. So you should plant resilience early, and the only way to plant it is to always call yourself to meetings and strip yourself. I do that a lot.
Right.
I write a book like this, I call myself in a corner and say, hey guys, if nobody reads it,
what happens?
What happens? And I've printed it. Then I ask myself, wow, so the money is lost. Then if the money is lost, what happens? Is my writing gone? Is my desire to provide content and material that can be able to help people live holistically, is it over? If I stand up to speak and people yawn all through, waiting for a comet to strike me, what happens? When I work with artists, I always ask them, if you can sing, I ask them, if you lose your voice, what is left? A footballer, I ask them, if you lose your ability to play, what is left? If you don't have resilience outside your talent, and you're depending on that talent, you're hopping on one leg, and I can tell you, you will not hop very far. Even you can hop for a little, but if I tell you to hop on one leg from here to the gate, I will find you somewhere.
It's a problem.
Yeah. So you need to have the other resilient leg walking with you through life.
And what about another area, and I'm sure, we're always saying, yesterday probably somebody received that SMS, it's not you, it's me. It's over. The relationship is over. That's a loss in one sense or another. Deeper still, their marriage is over. Someone probably still dealing with it. So how does somebody deal with loss at that level? And because at that level, there's always the you almost feel like it's always your fault. So there's always that thing that I'm going to blame myself. This is because of me. So how do you deal with the loss in relationship?
Well, relationships are maybe more complex because the person remains to be alive. So they're more, if I'm dealing with if somebody passes on, I grieve and I say they passed on. If it's a job, I'll say I'll change my disciplines. I'll write an apology letter. I can always
get another job.
Right. But with relationships, they're more complex because of the degree of penetration that occurs when you're dealing with. I believe in boy-girl relationship.
Yes. Most important. That's very clear.
And our constitution.
Yes.
And the president. So I believe in boy-girl relationship. And they're normally very penetrative. So I always would urge that we need to start detaching early so that guys can begin to go slow. You begin to detach. And detachment is normally very complex because unfortunately with relationship, it hits you hardest when you're alone at night or where you used to visit together or to be together. So those are the difficult times. So the process of detachment is the hardest part. I always say this, that if a relationship has been torn beyond repair, instead of what is left is now not the relationship, what is left is you. Now, stop trying to fix yourself to play a role in a broken relationship, because probably the person who is coming will be different from the person who has left. So you need to go back to the corner and find the self, the true self, your identity, because relationships have got a way of altering your identity. If you date a hostile girl and she was hostile and crude and nini, chances are either you became timid or you learned to either go down or go up. So you adjusted yourself to coexist in a relationship. But when this relationship has so much been torn apart and it's gone, you cannot keep that, because that was only useful. Relationship are customized settings. So when that relationship falls apart, the customization, how you customize yourself for that specific person, that's now where the detachment should be. So you cannot blame yourself for customizing yourself. All relationships are customized.
Right.
The things Willis does with the wife, I don't do with my wife. It doesn't mean you love your wife more. It doesn't mean I love my wife less. But now, should anything happen, it doesn't mean that now I've customized myself for this particular person. I should remain with those customized settings for that person. I should go back to my true self and say, hey, before I met my beautiful wife, before I met her and started relating with her, what was I? What did I want to be? What did I want to do? Going back to the true self, your identity, gives you the sense of surviving those relationship tears. Many of us, we try to fix, now when the relationship breaks, so you're trying to fix yourself to be the man to the woman or the man who left you. So you're trying to say, "Alisema mimi nilikuwa hivi." So you're fixing yourself for that man. And maybe the next one who is coming will now require you to be different. And you've already set yourself now for the man who left. Right. And then now you've built yourself, invested yourself, filled in all the blanks. Then the new man comes in and says, I can't deal. Like I can't deal. This is not the kind of woman I want for my life. So go back. You must have an identity before you have a relationship. And if you get into a relationship and things end up badly and you're so torn apart, I hope and pray that you find that place where your true core and ask yourself, who was I before I started dating this person? And that begins the process of detachment and rebuilding, so that now love will come again. But when it comes, you will not be under pressure to try to make the next person the old person. That's some of the things I would say.
All right, we have a few tweets that are coming in. Let's just take a sample of some of them using the hashtag Power Breakfast. Right, Kim Weller Music says, thank you for your job loss as a temporary setback. Most successful people have experienced major setbacks in their careers but have turned things around by picking themselves up, learning from the experience, and trying again. That is what Kim Wellam says. Albelito _ Candy says we should always choose our friends well so that they be reliable shock absorbers when we are dealing with a loss. The Ngosi says powerlessness, emptiness, collapse is what loss does to you. And then, okay, this one is at 49F22E022 DB94B2 says, ask him, how do you deal with loss if, for example, you have been diagnosed with cancer? How do you take it?
That's health.
Another thing as well, that's loss in terms of health. How do you deal with that? Yeah.
Wow, that's first of all, health is very tough. I watch people who are living with terminal diseases, and that's why if you've been diagnosed with a terminal disease, you need to find a survivor who has been through it, and they are living with it, because the homa yako ni ya 2 days nemeisha. But when you're living with conditions, terminal diseases, they alter your energies, they alter your diet, they bring a lot of alteration in you until it gets to a place you feel like you are just taking care of the disease. You stopped living. You've just become this bundle of drugs and all this. So the first thing is you must find a circle which we call a care shelter, whereby these are people who've survived the same things. And they are living positively with terminal conditions, because they are there. There are people like that. They're living positively with terminal conditions. The good thing is also that now there is a body of knowledge you can get on the internet or YouTube of people who are living how I overcame the feeling of despondence or the feeling of hopelessness and emptiness when I discovered that I have a terminal disease. It's normally very tough when it's actually a young person who has been diagnosed with a terminal disease, because they had all these plans and ambitions. Secondly, I would say, regardless of the terminal disease, try as much as possible to live intentionally. As you're going through process, try and ask yourself, did I want to write a book? Did I want to do this? Steve Jobs, if you look at his Harvard speech he did, I think in 2014 or 2015, he says that the awareness of death brought a new reality, because he came to a place where he saw death as the best invention. Because during that time, when he discovered that he had a terminal disease and he had the money to go to the best doctors, best hospitals, get the best of the best to work on him, and when it was told that it is still not going into remission, he decided that I'm going to choose a different path. He said, I'll not only try to live healthy, but I'll go back to what I was good at. I'll go back to creating. And you will be surprised that during that time, he was still able to lead the company into where it is right now. I think Apple is almost at $850 billion worth. He was able to make sure that he oversaw the building of iPhone, he oversaw the building of iMac, he oversaw the building of growing of this company while he was still managing his terminal disease. So these are kind of stories that tell you that when they find you have a condition that is termed terminal by man, it necessarily does not mean that your life ends there. You can actually be able to live positively and live purposefully regardless of the terminal disease. Now, we are not trying to downplay that you still have to go through medication, take it seriously. You still have to take your sessions seriously. And unfortunately, when you're going through terminal diseases, because of maybe the chemical imbalances, you may find yourself that you're a patient, but it naturally makes you very difficult. What I would tell you is that try as much as possible to be as supportive to the people who are trying to take care of you and love you and embrace you and be positive to you. They are pouring themselves so that you can use their energy. So use the energy of the healthy to push yourself. See our commitment to you, to push yourself, to ignite your will to want to live and to conquer. But we do hope and pray that you're going to survive and overcome it.